So today is a exciting topic, and it's the 4 disciplines of execution. And the principle of this is sometimes we try to do too many things, and sometimes we have a tendency to overcomplicate matters. Anybody ever feel either of those ways, emotions, whatever you want to call it? Anybody?
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
So let me get my material here. Do we have any lenders on? I'm going to give a 2-minute lender plug here for what rates are doing, because I think we're seeing a little bit of progress. Is that correct? Any of our lenders?
A little bit. Yep. We got
6.135.
we have just to quickly tell everybody what's going on. The Fed yesterday met, and they did increase the Fed funds rate again, which, as I've been explaining to everybody, is really good for mortgage rates, right? Because the challenge and why mortgage rates went up so much was inflation. But what was kind of interesting about what the Fed did last week, and it's kind of in line with where they're looking to go, they increased the Fed funds rate to 4.5 to 4 3/4 range. You guys remember, literally March a year ago, it was 3/4 of a point. So it's gone up dramatically, right? And they did that to fight inflation. But what happened yesterday after the increase was something that was said, which was the Fed really does believe that it's working. There is some deflation taking place. Inflation is starting to come down. There's 2 points of interest I want to mention. So the mortgage rates went great, stock market went great, everything went great, because without inflation, everything's a little bit better, right? The challenge is there's 2 categories, and one category I think is worth mentioning specific to real estate. Although core goods are down, the cost to buy things and do whatever, core services excluding shelter is not down. So, like that's going to the barber, going to the doctor's office, those, any kind of costs associated to that are not down. But what was interesting was, the Fed does believe, and I believe as well, that there is some disinflation in shelter and real estate. And the real good thing that I heard from that, being a mortgage guy and working with real estate professionals, is that he didn't talk about deflation. He talked about disinflation. What disinflation really is having it kind of chill and stop going up. But having it come down would be a negative, right? So he didn't talk about that. But the disinflation piece is that they do expect there's some data in there where things should start to, maybe not go crazy and hopefully not deflate, but at least kind of stop a little bit in the middle. The employment he thinks is lagging too, because you got to remember, even though the unemployment is kind of status quo, the reality is a lot of companies are cutting people back. So although they're not letting people go, the hours are cutting back. And when you really look at that and you translate the less amount of hours that are being worked right now, it's equivalent to about 1.9 million jobs. So it really has kind of, some of the data is a little skewed, but what's great about it is, for the first time ever, the Fed has said they believe it's working. There's probably going to be a couple more cuts. And again, as crazy as it is for our buyers to understand that rate cuts help us at the moment, it's the reality. So hopefully we'll see rates continue to drop. Rates came down real nice yesterday. We're losing a little bit today, but they're nice. They're good again. You can get mortgages in the definitely in the 5s again, and we're getting there for sure.
That's fantastic and encouraging. So I'm gonna get started. I have an incredible amount of content, and my challenge today is going to be to put it into digestible bullet points so that we can all take something and move on it. I also want to welcome, I don't know if anyone from RE/MAX Alliance is on this morning. Bill and Julie Schmaling and their group of agents, most of them have transitioned over to our Morristown office. I want to give a big welcome to them. Welcome to our Friday Mastermind call if you're on. And I also have, I don't know if Chris Pfluger is on.
I am.
Chris. So Chris Pfluger comes to us from RE/MAX Corporate, Motto Mortgage, We Insure. He's a wealth of knowledge and information. He's coming on as our COO, and he's initially focusing on our acquisition in Florida to try to deliver more, better, more efficient services and solutions to our group. So if you want to just give us a little Florida, New Jersey hello, Chris.
Hello, everybody. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody and working with you down the road here. So appreciate
Fantastic.
that.
Fantastic. And he also had worked directly with Dave Liniger's personally owned Remax offices. And for those of you who are newer here and don't know him, Dave Liniger's our founder of Remax. And he entrusted this young man here to run how many offices in both coasts?
It's 42 locations across 5 states.
42 locations. So this is easy, 27. You only have to work 3 days. Just kidding.
That's
Well,
nothing.
welcome aboard, Chris.
Thank you.
And without further delay, let me share my screen here and start. Did anybody ever read the book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution? Anybody? All right, so this is new to everybody. So the 4 Disciplines of Execution was co-written with 3 gentlemen, including
Is there some type also with it?
Including Steve Covey's son was one of the co-authors of it. And the 4 Disciplines of Execution process has been refined to achieve 3 objectives: high quality implementation in shortest period of time. Love that. Maximum leader and team engagement with minimum interruption to the business, and sustainable WIG results through full process adoption. Does anybody know what WIG is? All right, it's a wildly important goals. So like your BHAG. 4DX is not a theory, but a proven set of principles that have been tested and refined by hundreds of organizations. And according to my source, 126,000 teams over the years. The disciplines are really simple. The first discipline is to focus on your wildly important goals. And a good idea without execution is basically worthless. I don't know if you've been in this instance where you feel like you were busy all day, all week, all month, and really haven't accomplished the most important things. Well, this is what's designed to help us break through that, to help us get out of the whirlwind where everything seems urgent, but nothing important gets done. What do you think? What's a wildly important goal to us in this business? Anybody?
To make money.
Make money. Okay. How much money?
Well, everybody has their own goal, right? I know that I'm part of the ramp class, and one of the most important things is the big why, right? And the money is a very important part of the big why. So if you have the big why, which really dovetails into your mastermind here today,
Okay.
I think the two of them, they work together. So it depends on what your big why goal is, and then you'll be able to determine what that amount of money is.
So some of the experts say like the wildly important goal is sometimes elusive because we need to identify the most important objective that won't be possible or won't be able to be attained without, providing specific attention and focus to that. And, a related way of looking at it from real estate is if you want it to, do a certain number of transactions, there are steps that have to happen before that materializes and becomes a reality. The first thing is as you step back from the end goal is you need to have appointments, right? To meet with people, because without appointments, you're going to be very hard pressed to complete transactions. And then the leading indicator to appointments might be what, Anthony?
The leading indicator to appointments, that would be your calls, right? So your 61 calls in the ramp class would be your leading indicator. How many calls are answering, and then how many appointments you can make with those calls, right?
Yep. So everything needs to be measured, and I'm almost like saying you take a look at the end result and you work backwards to get where you want to be. Okay. And if you're not paying special attention to what needs to be done, you're likely not going to be optimal in achieving that. To define a wildly important goal, you need to have 3 things. And those 3 things are, where are you now? Where do you want to be? And by when? You might want to write this down. So your wildly important goal. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? And by when? And this can easily be rephrased as your starting line, your finish line, and your deadline. Okay, where are we starting from? Where do we want to end up? And how quickly do we want to get there? All really critical components. So once we recognize and commit to our wildly important goal, a lot of people, they have a habit of measuring lagging indicators. And in your example, Anthony, a lagging indicator might be, closing checks or your bank account balance. But if you're measuring lagging indicators, you're looking at historical activity. You're not looking at predictive data. The predictive data would be the points that you're talking about, the 61 points that you get from the Workman program. Can you describe to the group, Anthony, what are the 61 points that you're talking about?
So there's a daily habit tracker, and every day the accountability is that you have these points for each contact that you make with a potential lead or a future potential lead, right? And then the ones that you do have contact with, you would mark off with an X. So you know that these are the people that you have made contact with and spoke to on the phone. And then you're able to better see where you're going with your business plan in terms of how many transactions you're going to be able to perform for both, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, quarterly and yearly, and then adjust and correct.
Okay. And like, what would be an example of a point?
Well, the point is a call or
Cold call, no door knocking, fist bumps.
door knocking. You could make an
You
email.
can do handwritten notes.
It would be what? Personal note?
Handwritten notes. Yeah, handwritten notes. You can do showings with your clients, listing appointments, contract sign, a closing.
You get so many points. If you,
So if you do a role play,
contacts.
10 points. The idea is that you get 61 points throughout the day. If you do role playing script, you get 10 points. If you do door knocking, you get a point. Open house is 10 points. If you have one closing that day, it's 15 points. If you write an offer, it's 10 points. If you do a buyer or a listing agreement, it's 10 points. If you do a buyer or a listing appointment, it's 10 points. If you show 2 homes per client, it's 10 points for each client. If you do a handwritten note, it's 2 points per note. If you send out an email and or text, it's 1 point. If you make 1 phone call, it is 1 point.
That's
Thank
part
you,
of the
Maurice.
ramp program. So everybody listening, ramp is pretty cool. So if you want to enroll in it, you should definitely do it.
Fantastic. So discipline 2 is to act on the lead measures. And the discipline of leverage requires you to identify and act on the measures that are predictive of reaching your goal and that can be influenced by you and the team. While a lag measure tells you if you've achieved a goal, the lead measure tells you if you're likely to achieve it in the future. So a profit and loss is a lag measure. A report on upcoming listing appointments, on calls made, would be a leading measure. Okay, that would be predictive of what's going to be happening in the future. And we ought to know what our appointment to transaction relationship is. Does anybody know, like, if you go on, 5 appointments, how many transactions do you get? And I don't mean an appointment would be necessarily a listing opportunity, but this could be, an appointment with a financial advisor, just getting in the habit of having appointments that can generate business. Anybody want to share what your numbers are? Nobody, huh? I see Bob Durso's name there. Bob, you've led before. What do you think an appointment to transaction relationship should be?
2.
So I think it is directly related to what I give. So for example, I have a couple of attorneys that I meet with on a regular basis, and I typically will receive, I have one attorney that I get at least a dozen deals a year out of. He's an elder care attorney. So if I had to average all of my contacts that give me referrals based on, our relationships, I would say probably 5 would be
5
a real number.
So, and do you know offhand how many transactions you did last year?
About 54.
So would you say you probably have about 5 appointments a week?
Easily.
Easily. So that's a predictive indicator of where you're going to be. And congratulations on 54 transactions. That's more than one a week. Quite impressive.
Thank you.
So next, let's see here. Lead measures track the critical activities. Success is based on both lead and lag measures. Lag measures are profit, revenue, customer satisfaction. Lead indicators are prospecting and appointments. Does RAMP, how many points does RAMP give you for an appointment?
For a buyer and listing appointment, it's 10. But if they sign, it's another 10.
Okay. Wonderful. Just go back to, so lead measures predict, lag measures success and are influenced directly by the team. A typical example of lead and lag measures that's non-real estate related is if you want to lose weight, diet and exercise are predictive indicators of what your scale is going to tell you when you measure your lag indicators, which is your weight. Back to here. So daily sales calls lead to revenue, which is the lag results. Now, fourth discipline of success is scoreboard. And the example in the book that they talked about was high school athletes perform differently and have a different level of engagement when there's a scoreboard, and we keep track of that. So if you were just playing basketball and not keeping score, the intensity and commitment would be different than if you had 3 minutes left in the game and it was 42-44, because then there would be adrenaline, excitement, and commitment, and that's based upon the team keeping score and also the dynamic of a team creating accountability. Does that resonate with any of us? And I think this is good evidence as to why there's a lot more discussion and a lot more productivity from real estate teams in the marketplace, because it does provide that sense of accountability, that sense of achievement when you earn something as a team by working together. And the fourth discipline that they talk about is creating a cadence of accountability. Who likes accountability? Anybody?
I do.
I do. I need it.
Love
You
it.
do, you need it. And you give it, right, Glenn?
Absolutely, I do.
And sometimes we're going to repeat things that we've gone over a lot of different times. And Glenn has a new definition for accountability. What is that, Glenn?
Accountability is love.
And I think that that is pretty impressive, pretty amazing, because was it comfortable when you first started to love your agents?
Now, like hugging a 300-pound gorilla.
So you had some resistance, huh?
Yeah.
And do you have any regret?
None at all.
And do the team members perform better when they're held accountable and measured?
Constantly improving. Yep.
And how often, and this is not a preset thing here, I'm just going to ask Glenn, I'm going to kind of compare it to my notes. What's the cadence of accountability that you have for your team members?
15-minute huddle call in the morning, which usually runs a little long, and then 15 minutes individually on a Friday. So they get 15 minutes with a timer on a Friday.
And what do you address during those calls, Glenn, if you don't mind sharing?
On the 15-minute huddle, it's about prospecting and team updates. On the 15-minute individual, we review the dashboard to see what activities were done or were not done. And then, of course, measure that against the trend. So if you don't do it this week, 6 weeks from now, you're not going to have X.
And do you generally measure the leading or the lagging indicators in those meetings?
It's actually both. Yeah, it's actually both. Because we have so much data now that we're collecting, we can predict where people will be 6 to 8 weeks out.
And what are some of the lagging indicators that you talk about?
Well, lagging indicator is 6 weeks out, you had no deals, but and you know that, you find that out 6 weeks later, right? The leading indicator to that is activities. So we know what the conversion rate for I met a buyer, the buyer has converted to a sale. We know what I met a listing, how many of those will convert to a sale. And we manage the appointments obviously an appointment equals appointment met. And then appointment met means under contract, and under contract goes to close. And we can kind of predict what those timelines will look like based on the data.
Fantastic.
Remove the roller coaster.
So you just took a bunch of notes here on my phone. I just want to So the cadence of accountability is also probably one of the hardest disciplines, because it also addresses how are you playing the game. Yeah, let's back up. So regularly scheduled meetings, it's recommended it should be one time per week, and it probably should be no longer than 15 to 30 minute range, depending upon the size of your team. And Glenn, do you do them individually or team wide?
The 15-minute huddles are individually on Fridays.
Okay. Do you do any team event where people hold themselves accountable and say what they're going to do the following week, or is it just between you and the team member?
Well, so the morning huddles, we discuss team matters like that, but just know everyone has a plan with activities that equal the number of transactions. So it's very predictable. It's not ad hoc. So if you make X number of calls, you're going to have this business. It's math, business is math. But we know those ratios and we discuss those ratios.
So regularly and frequent team meetings that focus on the wildly important goal are the accountability factors that build engagement and deliver results. Okay. People will, a lot of people by human nature will not want to let a team member down, or they will want to be competitive in that environment where you're keeping a score and holding people accountable. Does anybody value being the number 1, 2, or 3 agent in their office? Does anybody value getting the 100% Platinum Chairman's Titan Diamond Award?
Yes.
And does that directly put money in your pocket?
Yes.
It does? I think it indirectly does, but I don't think it directly does. I think that, you know, our competitive nature will force us to perform a little bit better than if we weren't keeping a scoreboard or measuring. And it's not that we're, you know, looking to, you know, beat somebody, but if you have a good competition, doesn't everybody's game improve?
Yes.
No?
Yes, Rob.
Okay. So, you know, the disciplines here, you know, may seem overly simplified, but I think my takeaway is that many of us have what I call shiny object syndromes and have to-do lists with, you know, 5, 10, 12 things on them. And when you have your to-do list or your goals being 5, 10, and 12 deep, how many do you really accomplish?
One.
Huh? One?
Just one.
Maybe
One,
not,
two, yeah.
maybe none,
Yeah,
right?
too many to
Maybe
concentrate on.
maybe you attempt to execute or you execute at a poor level, but you accomplish very little. And I think the 4DX is designed to have us, you know, take our one, maybe two most important goals and to keep driving those goals to enhance our business and thus enhance our lives. Okay. I want to take a moment here. I don't know, Denise, are you on? Denise Sulzer? Just wanted to.
I'm here, sir.
Wanted
I am
to just
here.
wanted to just reintroduce. We have a company-owned insurance franchise, and we have Denise, who's been a longtime friend and colleague of mine, who's running this. So if you have any either insurance needs where we can provide a value to your client and deliver consistent service, here is Denise's information. And Denise is also handling a very important initiative of ours, which is to make available to clients a quality vetted out home warranty, because having done over 4,000 transactions last year as a company, sometimes people conclude a transaction and the minute they go home, the hot water heater breaks, the air conditioner doesn't work, all of these activities, all of these events occur. And that might jeopardize the experience if we didn't at least make available to them the knowledge that they could have invested a small amount to have a little bit more certainty. So I'm going to turn it to you, Denise, for a very brief introduction, and then we're going to go back to the content.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. And it's really awesome to be here and working We Insure Agency for Rob. The We Insure Advantage Agency is here for all insurance. So anything that comes up that needs insurance, I'm going to keep it simple. Call me, have your clients call me, and we will fulfill their needs. If I don't have an answer, we'll get an answer rapidly. In addition, as Rob mentioned, please know that the home warranty is a vendor product that I brought in to assist both your clients and you as agents, because you can use it as a tool to hopefully collect more listings and be more prepared out in the competitive marketplace. If you add a home warranty, you can also add it into your MLS. If you have questions, concerns, I'm going to encourage you to call me directly. We'll get to know each other. I can match products with your needs, and we can talk more about the home warranty. I think after this, we'll have Fred send out flyers to you. There are scan codes on the flyers, and you can scan the code and right from the screen, guys. You don't have to print it out, and you can sign up and you can be on your way. Give me a call. I'll give you the details, and thank you for the time today.
All right. Thank you very much, Denise.
Bob, before you continue on the goals of what you were talking about with it, if you had 10 things, I wanted to share with you, there's an episode on Tom Ferry with an expert on these specific things. If you are just focused on one, your chances of success are like 90%. Two, it drops down to like 80 or 75%. 3 or more, it drops down significantly, all the way down to, I think, either 40 or 20% that you can possibly attain those goals, or, you know, what you were talking about. I just wanted you to, and everybody else here to know that.
Yeah, I know there was an episode there also about habits, and if you try to adopt too many habits, you succeed with none. And if you keep it to 1 or 2, you're probably north of 50%. If you go to 3, I think it was sub 10%. I don't know if that's the same episode or not, but it might be similar statistics, habits, and goals, and being able to achieve them. So I also want to, while we're on a minimal break from the core topic, we talked about sharing and leveraging and utilizing some pre-listing packets. And I don't know if Emily or Heather Montalbano are on the call now. Emily was on earlier and I didn't take advantage. Emily, are you here?
I'm here.
So Emily, you created a pre-listing packet, right? And if
So
you
yeah,
want
we're in
Yeah,
the
go-
process of finalizing it, but yeah, no, our team, you know, thinks it's really important to have something to leave behind with the sellers.
and can you tell us how you went about that and what type of a external cost it was and maybe how much time you're allocating towards that?
Yeah, so I went on Etsy and I found a pre-listing packet that I thought had at least, you know, good bones in terms of content, because I didn't want to create something from scratch. So this seller on Etsy had a buyers and sellers packet that you could purchase from them that you would be able to customize yourself. I personally don't have the time to do all the customizations myself. So I asked them what they would charge me to do the customizations for me. And for the buyers and sellers packets, it came out to $75, including the customizations that I wanted to make to it. So my team and I sat down and spent about an hour probably going through the packet and making whatever adjustments we thought were necessary to the content. I sent off the pages that are applicable to my, you know, vendors and partners. So, you know, for mortgage, for insurance, etc., and said, hey guys, take a look at this. Tell me what needs to be changed. And now it's ready to ship back off to the artist to finish the customizations and get them back in my hands.
And would you be willing to like share that product when you're finished with the group?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Fred, are you on still with us? Fred, maybe he's not with us, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a tile for sharing on the 2 hubs so that we can utilize the efforts of our peers rather than creating everything from scratch. And I think we have Heather. Are you? You look like you're driving. What's the status of yours?
So I did the same thing that, not the same thing, but I
Turn
used
right
the
onto
same
Beverly Road.
Etsy company and had a template that I bought, and then you can upload it into the
3.4
app
miles. Turn right
Canva,
onto Salem Road.
which is super simple to use, super cheap every month to use, and it's great for marketing also. But I downloaded it into that, and then I customized it for myself. And in that packet, it has, you know, my bio. It has a meet the team page that has like our attorney on it, our preferred lender, home inspector, septic inspector. And then it goes into just the process of what happens from when we have our listing appointments to when the house gets sold. So it just breaks everything down really simply and really cleanly for a seller to look at. So it has, you know, that we'll do, you know, your professional photography. If the house needs staging, we have a staging company that we can recommend, and it goes into that. And then it goes into what happens when an offer comes in, what happens when the buyer does their home inspection, what can you ask for, what can you not ask for, what happens when the appraisal comes in. So it just breaks it down nice and simple, and it gives them a nice timeline for everything.
Okay. So,
Rob,
and would you be, I want to get Heather on to mute because we got the directions interfering, but would you be willing to share that as well, Heather?
Yeah, no problem. And I have one for mother.
onto Schmuck Avenue and then turn left.
All right.
I
Turn
have
left onto Hamden Avenue and then turn left.
I have a buyer packet that I use for buyers that I do the same with, and then I have
Turn
my
left
listing
onto
packet.
Hamden Avenue and then
So
turn
Got
left.
it. Yeah, I'm going to mute you because we hear your directions, but I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So, Colleen, you had a comment. I muted everybody.
yes, I wanted to say that what I'm having our mortgage company do for us and our title company, which I'm sure you can do in New Jersey, is make short videos for us, information videos that we can post on our social media and send out to our sphere of influence. One of them is how do I take title on my home? What happens if there's a will or there isn't a will with probate? Informational videos, I have like a dozen of them. And I'd like to be able to post those on our hub so anybody can use them. And
Wonderful.
our New Jersey people can share also. And
So,
go ahead.
So when I talk with Fred, I'm going to have him create another tile on there for sharing marketing material. So this way,
Right.
everybody doesn't have to start from the beginning in doing what we're all looking to accomplish. And the purpose of the pre-listing or the buyer packet, is not to do a presentation and walk through it like a robot. The purpose of it is to provide like a piece of collateral material so that people can understand what we do, because I don't think the public really understands the full value proposition, and they don't differentiate us as we should be when we're compared to our peers. I don't know, Colleen, you've been doing this a long time. Would you say that, that's something that's fairly prevalent out there, that, they look at us as a commodity instead of a specialty?
Absolutely. I always say to the agents, be sure you tell them your job is not to open the door and say, here's the house. We work from the start to the closing, and a lot goes into that.
Yep.
Our job is not necessarily easy. We wear many hats as realtors. And I think a lot of times we don't share that. If you sit down and think of all the things you have to do, and I have a list, I'll post it, of all the things a realtor does, it's a lot.
Yep. So let me, and Colleen, we're going to be going into that concept a little bit more in our peer-to-peer meetings on Mondays. And I don't recall, I have to look at my notes, what we agreed to do for the next peer-to-peer. Does anybody remember what that is? If not, I'll be sure to get another video email out to identify that. Going to the cadence of accountability, the three things that we should be having in our brief discussion is, did we meet last week's commitments? Did we go beyond job performance to a personal promise? Okay, when you share your commitment with your team leader, accountability partner, or the entire team, you have more leverage on yourself when you say, I'm going to make 5 calls, 10 calls. I'm going to earn 60 points on the Workman Success ramp program, right? Because you've made it public to people who you don't want to come back and say, you know what, I dropped the ball on that. Did we keep the scoreboard consistent? For the Royal Workman, they talk about, points and what's being accomplished. And then lastly, in these calls, we talk about what are you going to commit to this week, not weekend. What are you going to commit to this week? Like what's your commitment that's going to be discussed at the next weekly call, right? And the author of the book puts a quote out saying, nothing drives morale and engagement more than winning or the prospect of winning, right? To achieve, on our New Jersey leadership team, do we have any managers on the call? Anybody?
Rob,
Unmute
I'm here.
yourself? Okay. So do you find that, agents in New Jersey get motivated by reaching different levels of the circle of excellence?
Yes.
Right. I mean, everybody has we all have a need to serve clients, to grow our business, and to earn money. Right. But I think the added component of reaching a certain level on the circle of excellence has an additional motivating factor to our associates and people in our boards, that they want to be, they want to make bronze the first time. They want to go to silver. They want to earn gold. Then they want to make, the top award platinum. And that's winning. And that's able to get public recognition. Do you think, Dan, that the public knows the difference between a silver and a platinum circle of excellence winner?
No.
Do you think that they're going to look in online and say, I want to hire a platinum circle of excellence winner? I don't think that they.
No, they're not going to be. They're not going to search by that.
But for us in our peer groups, it shows that we've had a certain level of accomplishment, and those are the things. Those are the winning components that drive people beyond money and client service. And I think it's a healthy contribution to, or it's healthy to have those goals, to look to achieve those things, even if they're, by making one extra sale, it can only be $100 that puts you over that limit, but it might mean, more than a $10,000 commission check, because it's that level of accomplishment that we strive for, that recognition amongst our peer groups that motivate us to do those things.
And Rob, I also just think that it's a baseline of tracking that a lot of agents have, that's just kind of ingrained in all of us, that, if you're on track to reach that level, you're making a certain amount, maybe making a certain amount of income, right? So I think that, not every associate is great at tracking, like, where their business is going, what they're doing, kind of what's going on, what's in the pipeline. I just think that it's a good baseline to know where a lot of people are, and they like pick it up, or, they pick their business up if they're behind, maybe tracking for gold or platinum. I think it's just something that helps the agents also stay competitive, like you mentioned earlier, and stay locked in and focused, on the goal too. And of course, everyone likes recognition, for their achievements.
Yep. I mean, it's a healthy pressure, right? Because people, work hard, and sometimes they step it up the last, 4 to 6 months of the year, because they want to make sure they achieve that goal. So I think this is all evidence for the way that the system is designed. Does anybody want to do anybody want to volunteer to share what their wildly important goal is, and try to work through what the lead measures are, and maybe do an analyze this for themselves? And if not, I'll make up an example.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Dawn.
That's fine. If you want, I can share how I do recruiting. What my goal is, and if you want.
Sure.
So my goal is to hire one agent a month. And the way I do it, I break it down where I make calls. So 10 calls a day, and hoping to get out of those 10 calls, 3 appointments a week. And from those 3 appointments, I'm hoping to get one of them. So.
Okay. So in the instance that you have, your wildly important goal is to have 12 new additions to your office over the period of 12 months that meet a certain standard, correct?
Right.
And the lead measures are, what are your lead measures?
Well, obviously doing my research. So the 10 people that I do call, I do my research, see what they accomplished in the last at least 12 months, but I focus mostly like the recent sales. So when I do call them, I have something to talk to them about. And
So to oversimplify this, Adona, your lead measures are researching the agents, making the phone calls, and having the appointments, right?
Right.
Those are the things that are going to be predictive of what your next month to 3 months look like, right?
Right.
And what are the lag measures that we would be looking at? It's a very obvious question, so don't overthink it.
Getting them to sign up or move to our company.
So the lag measures would be, new productive agents that have moved their license, and potentially new productive agents that have made the commitment and started to transition themselves, order signs, cards, maybe even move a transaction here in advance of their ultimately moving. So those would be some of the lagging measures, right? If somebody's ordered their cards, that's kind of evidence that you've done your leading indicators correctly, right?
Yes.
And how do you keep track of what you're doing? Do you have either a sheet of paper, a spreadsheet, or a system for tracking calls, appointments, and hires?
Yeah, so I do have an Excel sheet that I keep track of when I called them, what my conversation was. So let's say if I do call someone and they tell me, oh, I'm really busy, I'm traveling to Florida, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'll make a note to call them in 2 weeks. And then I ask them how was their vacation. And so I keep my notes. And if they tell me, no, call me in 3 months, then I write my notes to call them in 3 months.
And who do you share this with so that you create the cadence of accountability?
With Deb.
Okay, with your regional or the general manager, you share this information. And does sharing the information, in your opinion, make you more committed to doing things when maybe you might not feel like doing it?
Absolutely. They'll be on top of me if I didn't make those calls. So if I said I'm going to follow up with those 10 agents, then I have to follow up with those 10 agents.
And how often do you share this? And this might be a learning experience for all of us, so I'm not being critical, but how often do you share, hey, here's what I did, and here's what I committed to do last week, here's what I did from what I committed to, here's the result, and here's what I'm committing to next week? How often do you do that?
Twice a week. So I have a conversation with her, scheduled a phone call Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that's when I share my information, what I did.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's a practical example that we could all maybe learn from. And if I'm not mistaken, the whole Workman system does have accountability partners built in, right?
Yes, it does.
Hey, Rob.
Yes.
It's Jim. So there is a tracker for recruiters at the 61 point that's set up for recruitment also in Workman, just so you know.
Fantastic. And on the Workman, everybody has an accountability partner, correct?
They should. Everybody
Okay.
should.
Fantastic. Now, I'm going to ask a question that I probably shouldn't ask, but this is the second or the third week for most of the ramp classes?
Third week.
Third week. And did attendance drop significantly, or have we been consistent?
Attendance dropped in our class this past Wednesday.
Okay, by how much would you say?
I would say by half.
By half, huh?
So, Rob, for Morristown, I just had one person drop out. The rest are still there on time.
10
Tina?
falls is still good.
I'm sorry?
The 10 falls is still good.
Okay. So,
We're
so that,
gonna-
that
Rob, I'm
cadence
sorry.
of, go ahead. Ron?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we're gonna introduce it to our South Florida agents on the 17th of February. So I will be sending out emails to the agents who want to participate. It's a fabulous program. If you don't stick with it, you're crazy, because you definitely will close 2 sales a month if you follow the system, maybe even more. So we're going to introduce it on the 17th this month.
Fantastic. And before
Rob?
we went, yeah,
A number of people went to the Daryl Davis conference. I signed up for Workman and I wasn't able to attend, and I'm sure there are others that went as well. So that may be a reason why some
yes,
attendance
Shante, that's a great point, because I know Mr. Golden went with you, right?
Yep.
And I think there were
Carly
Carly,
Smart was there, and a
Danielle
couple other
Coyle.
people.
Well,
Mhm.
congratulations on that commitment. By the way, how was that?
It was fantastic. It really, really was. I am fired up and I'm just so excited. And it was 3 full days of guest speakers, just FISBOs. They went over scripts and how to handle objections, and just some really dynamic speakers.
Well, that's fantastic. You know, we've had him speak with us twice, so we're obviously a big fan of Mr. Daryl Davis, and he's also quite entertaining.
Very entertaining.
Now, Colleen, do you remember what we were going to do on next week's peer-to-peer from our last
No, I'm
session?
sorry.
We were going
Friend.
over listing. You had asked people to get together to do a listing presentation for us.
Oh, okay, great.
That's why you were trying to get people in the group and nobody said yes. And then you said, well, I'll just reach out to some people. So we were trying to get like a collective listing agreement.
I mean, pre-listing or
Listing
listing?
presentation.
Yes, presentation, sorry.
So we'll call that listing conversation here, because I don't hear you when you
like
say
that.
that.
The listing conversation.
And you know, I think part of our DNA is the way that we process and look to build upon our skill set. And I was watching this morning while I was grabbing my first cup of coffee, one of the Tom Ferry interviews that he had, and he has this gentleman, his last name is Gold, and he claims to be famous for selling the Playboy Mansion. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this person interviewed by Tom Ferry. He does quite a few of those interviews. And, you know, his commentary was that he spends, for a large listing, he spends hours, you know, if not, you know, a full day of preparing and immersing himself in all the data points, all the information to have that listing conversation. However, he said most times he never pulls the material out and shares it. Now, that to me is a really interesting and compelling discussion point, because I've been out with many of us on this call here on listing conversations, and we do a lot of work to prepare all this collateral material. But if the conversation is going well, do we want to say, hey, I prepared this, let's go over it anyway if they're ready to sign now? Anybody?
No.
We don't do that, right? And by the way, Shante, I'm gonna, at the risk of embarrassing myself, have you heard back from, was it Herb?
Yes, I called him yesterday, as you suggested, to just get the listing. His response, I'll tell you, he said that Rob is very convincing, but he said it didn't move the needle.
Let's
So
see,
he's just,
now I'm embarrassed. See, I failed you.
well, I'm glad you went because you thought me and John were doing something quote unquote wrong, but that's just the guy. I don't know what to do with him.
All right, well, we'll talk about that later. So this individual said that the act of preparing and having all that information makes him a better conversationalist at the appointment. And on the higher end listings, you know, not only does he study the inventory, but he studies the people who've done some of the transactions. And even if it's not him who did the transaction, you know, and this I found really interesting. So like if you were in, you know, a really high end of Palm Beach Island and you were to say, hey, you know, here's some of the data points, and you saw that, you know, this was, you know, Joe Smith from this, you know, CEO of this company that sold this house. You know, if you say, you know, I don't know if you're aware, but, you know, Joe Smith sold his house, you know, 4 blocks away to, you know, this other person, it almost implied that you were part of that transaction without saying that you were, and being deceitful. And, you know, to me, it resonated because, you know, if it's important, we should really take the time to prepare. And even if we don't share it, it doesn't matter. Right? When you're ultimately prepared, when you speak about something, it comes across in the way that your voice inflects to the other person. You know, do you believe that, I'm going to try to pick somebody else that we don't normally go over. Bill Schmeling, do you believe that when you are confident that your voice comes across differently than, you know, if you're in an area that you're not an expert in? You have to unmute yourself. There
Yes,
you go.
absolutely. It just comes across a lot stronger.
Right, because there's no got you questions, right?
What was that?
There's no got you questions, right? Because you've done your homework.
Right.
There's nothing that they can really say that's going to trip us up. And, you know, subconsciously, the way that we express ourselves is at a whole new level. And it doesn't mean that we need to, you know, share every data point. It just means that we need to be prepared for when those questions come, right?
Yes.
How far of an area, Bill, would you say that you cover geographically?
Us?
Yeah, no, you personally.
Oh, pretty much north central and northern New Jersey.
Are you a member of Central Jersey MLS?
Yes.
Do you have the same confidence level when you go into that MLS to do a listing conversation?
Funny you mentioned that. I was down there last night, and I did not have the same level of confidence. Not only I didn't know the geography as well as I do up north, but I probably didn't prepare as much as I should have.
Were you successful?
Yes. I mean, I've been working with these people for a while. So.
All right. But the principle of, like, you know, for me, even if it's just not being as comfortable with the system that I mine the data from, doesn't it give you a lower level of comfort when you go on that presentation or that discussion?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So and this is the owner of our new team edition. Remax Alliance is aligned with us, and I want to welcome Bill and Julie and your whole team to our company, and look forward to many years of contributing to all your success.
Yes, and we're looking forward to it. You afford us a lot more in the terms of what you can do for us with your processes.
It's an honor.
Tools.
It's an honor to have you back. And I see, you know, Chad is on. Just wave, Chad. We just want to give you a shout out. So Bill, thank you for sharing. And I hope that we make a little bit of a contribution. Next, I'm going to send out a detailed peer-to-peer learning series meeting for Monday at 9:30 to 10:30. And I'm going to post up on the on our hubs some of the pre-listing information that is being shared by, you know, your peers, so that we can, rather than reinvent it from scratch, we can borrow their work and, you know, stack and build upon and customize it. I really think that having a pre-listing or pre-appointment packet separates us, because most people don't. Having a high quality, and I'm going to lean into what Emily said, not perfect, but high quality product that we can deliver differentiates us and makes the process a little bit easier. And I have a belief that if people really understood what we do, there would be less objections to working with us and paying a reasonable fee, because I don't think anybody here thinks that they're overpaid for the services we do. Bill, you're staring at me here because you're still on. Do you feel that you're overpaid, or you don't feel like you're overpaid?
No, I do not feel like I'm overpaid.
Do you feel that at times the public doesn't realize everything that we do to be successful in the business?
Oh, absolutely. That's part of our job, is to let them know that what we do.
So
if
our contribution can be giving everybody a platform that gets us closer to having a pre-appointment document that shows and shares what we do, and possibly can even highlight how, you know, we are different from who they may be talking to, I think that'll be a worthwhile contribution, worth a little bit of your time. And I hope that this is helpful. I hope everybody takes a wildly important goal, maybe scratches out 7 ones that aren't wildly important, and moves to execute it using some of the things that we spoke about today.
Rob, it's Colleen. I'm going to add, I'll put the 14 things the realtor does and a couple other pieces. I'll save them for our Monday peer counseling.
If you want to send them to me in advance so I can build around it, I do some prep work for that. That'd be great.
Do that. Okay.
All right. Anybody has any questions, I'll stay on, but I wanted to wish everybody a happy weekend. For our Florida team, it's going to be in the single digits here, so maybe we'll be making some referrals to you, I hope.
In person.
Yes. I think it's scheduled.
My windows are open.
It's scheduled to be 1 degree here, I think, tomorrow. So.
Oh, great.
86 degrees down
Sorry,
here.
guys.
I have like this. There you go.
Well,
We're
everybody,
85 degrees today, so nice.
yeah, there you go. If you have some frustrated homeowners here, let's get those houses listed, and let's ship them off to our family members down in Southeast Florida. It's a great place.
Quick tip for those combustible engines: make sure you put that gas freeze in your gas.
Yeah, and another reason to move to Florida there, Anthony. Thank you, everybody.